Welcome back everyone, Aaron here, and in this episode I'm going to share 4 composition tips to help you take some better photos with your Instax camera. There are 3 types of Instax film: square, mini, which is a small rectangle, and wide, which is a larger rectangle. So the composition tips in this episode will work with all 3 types of Instax film. Before we get started, I highly recommend turning on the grid lines if your Instax camera has the option to do so. This just makes composing your image a little easier. Meanwhile, if you're using an analog camera like the Instax Mini 11 or the Instax LiPlay, try to visualize the grid while you're taking your photos. Our first composition technique is negative space. Now, negative space may sound a bit weird, but it simply means leaving a large area of your frame empty so that the viewer's eyes are drawn towards your subject. Negative space compositions match up perfectly with minimal photography. So in this example, the white wall is the negative space, while the plant is the subject. There isn't a lot of activity or texture on the wall, which in turn means the viewer's eye will be naturally drawn towards the subject in the bottom left. Our second composition technique involves placing your subject in the center of your frame. This does work well with Instax Wide and Instax Mini, but I especially love taking these photos with my Instax Square cameras. As you can see here, simply place your subject in the middle of your frame, preferably in the middle square of your grid lines, and hit the shutter button. Centered compositions work really well with portraits and for food photography too. Our next composition technique involves symmetry. Now, symmetrical compositions work really well with Instax cameras and can be really easy to achieve, even at home. For my first symmetrical composition, I place matching cups on opposing grid boxes. If you can't find 2 of the same object, you can use a mirror for a similar effect. You can also find symmetry within objects in your home. For this shot, I lined up the strings on my guitar using the grid and in turn achieved a symmetrical shot like this. A really popular composition technique is the rule of thirds. So the rule of thirds simply involves placing your subject where the lines meet on the grid we spoke about earlier in this video. For this shot, I created a composition using a couple Instax printouts and an Instax Link printer. Using the rule of thirds, I placed the Instax Link where the grid lines meet in the top left and hit the shutter button. The rule of thirds is a great composition technique to have in your locker, and it can be used for all types and styles of photography too. However, always remember that these are only guidelines. There are no hard and fast rules when it comes to composing an image. So yeah, it definitely helps to remember all the tips which I've talked about in this video. But never be afraid to put everything aside and take a photo which is right just for you. I hope these composition tips have been helpful. Remember, when you share your photos online, to use the Instax hashtag. A massive thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.